Hello, my name is Barbara Lewis with another interview in my Imagine This creative series. In this series, I talk with creative people about how they maintain and explore their creativity later in life. Today, I'm going to speak with Lance Jones, who's based in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. What is the power of creativity?
Joy. I just love it so much to think that I've created this situation and I'm part of it.
As a kid, he played drums in a band, and later he worked in television, theater, music production, and music management. And he's been a professional writer in many areas and won numerous awards for his work. So, my first question for you, Lance, is when did you first realize that creative work was going to be central to your life?
That's a good question, and I pondered that. I'm not really sure because it came in spits and sparks.
Hmm.
Uh, when I went to university, well, even before university, I was drawing pictures. I was writing to friends in creative ways, but I didn't understand it as that. For me, it was just a lark. I went to university as a Bachelor of Commerce student. As that, it's an honors program where you get 6 credits and you get to choose whatever the sixth one is. The other 5 you have to do. And I should have caught on because I took drawing and I was good at it, which shocked me. And the writing teacher in it said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "These people don't know how to write. They don't care to write. You're a good writer. You shouldn't be here. You should be in an English program." So I switched, not because of English. I switched because the very first communication course in Canada happened at the university I was at. And I was going through summer school and intersession in summer school. And I took one because I thought communication. So in business, I like that idea of communicating. One class, and I said, "This is for me. This is what I want to do." I didn't think of it as a creative thing. I just thought of it as something interesting. All of the things that I had sort of had as a child living in a family who were graphic artists, I understood art. I understood communication through visuals. I was good technically. In fact, I was one of the top students technically because I loved it.
Hmm.
And it wasn't work for me. It was joy. But when I shot my first video, I did the lighting, I did the set, I did the story as well, worked with my brother, who's brilliant, and another friend, and we put this beautiful little silly film together, and it got an A+ because it was lit well, it was constructed well, and so forth. And
This
that's
is
when
when
I
you were
thought,
quite young. You were a young man at
yeah,
this
I was
point.
in my early 20s. I mean, music came in as well because I taught myself how to play drums, and then we formed a band, and I absolutely loved it. I'm an extrovert, so I like being in front of people. It's one of the key things for me in my life is that I've always looked for a challenge, and I'm not sure why. I guess because I want something new.
I think
If I
I remember reading somewhere what you wrote about curiosity being a very important part of who you are, that you have tremendous curiosity.
Yes, I do. And it gets me into all kinds of places because I'll talk to somebody and I'll go, "Well, that's interesting." And I'll start asking them questions.
Mm.
And they'll say about me, "Wow, what a great conversationalist." I hardly said a word.
You're
Yeah.
probably a very good interviewer.
So, well, I hope so. I've learned a little about a lot, but
Yes.
I know a lot about a little.
You've
Go ahead.
done so many things, so many creative things in your life. Is there a common thread that links these many things that you've done?
I like a challenge. I love when things are put together really well. As
Hmm.
a drummer, you need to know what the beat is, and
Hmm.
all video and film have a beat. If you want it to be dramatic or tension building, you can throw the beat off. I used to teach part-time at a community college, and one of the things I taught was presentation skills. And I talked about how when you take a picture of some person If you normally you would take it where if you took it, the person would be looking here and there'd be negative space in front of them. But if you really want tension, you do it this way and put the
Oh, that's
frame right
interesting.
there. I learned all that stuff and because I love it, I remembered it.
In your, when you think of your past now, and I know you continue to be creative and we'll get to that, is there one type of creative work that really sticks with you as being probably the most challenging and the most interesting for you?
Well, I guess it would have been photography.
Oh,
I was while we were in the band, we had a friend of ours who would take pictures. Yeah, he'd go into the dark room, and I
right.
in with him, and to see the pictures that he took suddenly appear in this vat of liquid, I went, "Oh my God, I love this!" And I talked to him about,
Magic.
yeah, it was magic. That's exactly what it was. And
When you think about the photos that you took way back when and that went into the dark room, do you feel, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm wondering if that was a little bit more exciting and more magical than what we do these days, which is, it's so easy now to take 100 photos.
that's a good question because what I discovered when digital came along, and I resisted for years for a lot of reasons. When video first came out, suddenly everybody was a videographer, a cinematographer, they called themselves, but they knew nothing about lighting, which is the key for photography and for filming. They knew nothing about it. They got a picture, yoo-hoo! They knew nothing about how to frame something to make it interesting. They
Mm.
didn't know anything about movement of the camera or the people. So a lot of it was shaky stuff that, to me it was so amateur. It upset me. What I wanted them to do is get rid of the junk. The stuff that's not professional looking and go for something that's interesting to me. And it's just me. Uh, I like things that are detailed. I like things that become an abstract image out of something that could be just considered a stack of chairs.
Mm.
And all of a sudden it becomes this really interesting green, twisty stuff that you may not know what it is, but it looks interesting, darn it.
Do you also take images of things that we recognize? Do those interest you as well?
Well, sure, if it's interesting, if it's lit, I mean, I love lighting. I
You
love
love.
there's a time called the golden hour, which is when the sun is at a low angle and it lights across it makes green suddenly come alive, like it has light inside it.
You've got this long, long creative process. Has it changed over time as you've grown inside? Have you changed as a creative artist?
Yes. I don't want to work for anybody anymore. I want to create images for me, and that includes writing. I want my own images that I see in my head because all my writing is a visual, it's a film inside my head. In fact, I wrote a book called Belle Rev, and she's a private investigator. It's first person, which apparently a lot of people have a hard time doing because how do you tell something that's going on if she's not there?
The
Uh,
thing I find really interesting here is, aside from the first person, is that you're being a first person of a woman.
That surprised me too.
So the
What,
character chose you.
in a sense, because what happened, how this whole thing came about is I have trouble sleeping sometimes, and I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I said, "Oh darn, I now know that I'm awake, and I don't want to be. I need to think about something." So I just lay there for a bit, and this character came into my head, and I went, "Wow, I like this." So I got up and I wrote the first chapter. It's funny in places. It's got drama in places. Um, it's got a little bit of a love interest, but absolutely no sex in it. Because,
Okay. You didn't want to write sex.
well, she didn't want to talk about it, according to what she told me. She has a bedroom that she calls Lust Vegas. And what happens
Okay.
in
And what
Vegas
happens there?
stays in Las Vegas.
Okay. Oh, that's fascinating. You're
So
serious then when you say, I mean, I hear writers saying this. that the character tells you what she or he wants to do. They actually tell you these things.
They seem to, and the first time it happened was the first book that I wrote. I had an outline, but my outline was like one of those connect the dot pictures. Do you remember those from when you
Oh,
were a kid?
sure. Hmm.
Well, there was like 150 dots, and you drew it, and you get a kitty cat or a bunny or something like
Sure.
that.
Yes.
Mine, there would be maybe 5 or 6 dots. And I would start at dot one because I said I knew this is kind of where I wanted, and I would start working and I would start heading toward two. I might make it to two, but all of a sudden, instead of going to three, my character is telling me, I don't want to go that way. I want to go over here. First time that happened, I laughed out loud. I said, I don't understand it. I have to go this way because this person's telling me I have to. I had the character so ingrained in my brain. I mean, it was really me saying it, but it was through the
Well,
character.
I read that you said that you never get writer's block. There's a way that you deal with that, and you're never without ideas. Is that still true?
If I'm stalled like sit down at the computer and I go, I'm not sure where I want to go, I'll just start writing. I don't know where I'm going to go with this. I know that she's doing this and she's doing
But
that.
how do you start writing? I mean, just anything that comes to mind?
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm stuck at where I want to go from here. I'm not sure. Should I go in this direction? Should I go in? Hey, that's a good direction. Let's try that one. And then I'll start writing in that. And if I don't like it, I'll just go back.
Hmm,
But I'll constantly write. I'm not worrying about spelling mistakes or any of that stuff, grammar. I don't care. I know that going back is what you need to do anyway, whether you're a
sure.
great writer.
Hundred times. Yes.
Yeah. And so I'll just get the idea down, get the idea down, and then fix it and massage it and polish it and all that later.
So your antidote to writer's block is just write something, write anything.
I joked with you one time. I said, it's the Nike phrase, just do it. Well, what people are going to ask is, what's it? And the thing is,
Exactly. A good question.
it is doing something, being active.
Yeah.
Allow your brain to just go anywhere it wants to. Free
Yeah.
association, automatic writing, doesn't matter. Just do it.
You're in your 70s now. Do you feel that you are as creative in that way as you were many years ago, or are you more creative?
I'm gonna embarrassingly say I'm more creative. I was working for other people. I had guidelines that I had to follow like that. Now I'm creating the dots and
Hmm.
I'm discarding them if I want to. I'm adding a whole bunch more if I want to. And that's exciting for me.
And are you working on anything else that
Yes,
maybe you could tell us about?
yeah, well, I'm working on part two of the Bell Rev book because
Really?
she has
Oh.
more stories to write. The first one is interesting because it's all about the fact that this woman is a private investigator and she's having a hard time making it. Um, but at the same time, somebody's trying to get rid of her. So throughout the book, there is incidences where she's almost done in, but she's got to also do these little private investigator things along the way. And each time she does one, you learn a little bit more about her or some of her really interesting cohorts.
Hmm. Is she based in Montreal?
I decided to position it in Boston
Oh, why Boston?
because I went to Boston and I really liked Boston.
Okay. Do you know Boston better now that you've written her part in there?
Well, I found that it was interesting to put her in Boston, but Boston is not a big character in the book. Now, her name is Belle Rev Chenier.
Yes, that's
It's
very
easy.
Montreal.
Would be very
Be
Montreal.
easy to put her here. Your next
Yeah,
book about her, where have you put her? Is she still in Boston?
I don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, that the location doesn't really matter that much to me. I could move her. She has a super duper friend who would have to move with her because he's just too good. He's this 6'3", 250 pound, massive black guy who's also gay, and he's a
Oh,
sweetheart.
I was going to say there's her sexual liaison is right there. So too bad.
Yeah, no, she's got her sexual liaison comes from a detective who,
Okay.
by the way, his last name is Guichet.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, you're keeping the French in there anyway.
Yes,
I can suggest, as long as you're willing, that our listeners, our viewers, read one or the other of the two stories that you sent to me. Both of them are really fine. The second one that is about a man getting caught in a cage is I laughed out loud. It's wonderful. There's a lot of humor in there. But you know, the interesting thing also is there's humor, but there's also life lessons. In those two, anyway, you give a sense of the importance of learning something and changing from those life lessons. I found that very, very interesting and enjoyable.
that was actually the purpose of the book,
Oh,
was to have the author learn something from each one of these, what are called tchotchkes. And he either gets the tchotchke himself or it's given to him, and each tchotchke has a story, whether it involves him directly or it involves him indirectly, but he learns something from it. That's kind of what happened to me in life, in that because I allowed challenge to happen and sought it out in a lot of cases, I would learn.
hmm,
And so I took a huge challenge and I went out to the East Coast and worked for a news organization for 3 years.
hmm. This was because you felt that you needed to live more life before you taught about life.
Exactly. And not even to talk about life, to understand life.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I felt very isolated and I learned a lot.
Hmm.
And then I realized that I needed to I needed to do more for my family. So I moved it back to London, Ontario, and I worked for a television station there doing commercials.
Hmm.
And
Yes, and you've given me a link to a commercial with Johnny Cash. Did you like him?
we weren't together long enough for me to say I liked him, but I was amazed by his professionalism. You have a script and you can time the script so that it works. That's one of the things I was good at, was timing the words.
Hmm.
And he did the first take and he did it in 31 seconds, something like that. So we're going to need to shoot until we can get you down to 28 seconds. He did it again, 28 seconds right on the button. We didn't have to do it again because,
Wow. Okay, that's what you mean by professionalism. Hmm.
yeah, he understood timing. Go ahead.
Who else stands out as being someone that you were surprised to meet them and get to know them?
Ray Charles. Yeah, I did a long interview, and made a 11-minute. I can't call it a documentary, but I'll call it a fun piece. So I shot his band playing, and I edited between his band playing and him talking about various things, including chess. Also, I met Paul Anka, and that's a funny story because we went to Toronto had a thing like the Walk of Stars, like they have in Hollywood.
Hmm.
We went to the Walk of Stars, and we got to see Tragically Hip perform, and Paul Anka sing a song, and a bunch of stuff. And as we were walking out, we saw a tent across the street, and there was a sign that said, reception area for Walk of the Stars, invitation only. We invited ourselves. We went in, and that's where I met Paul Anka. And the woman I was with was a coworker, and she saw the singer for the Tragically Hip, Gordon Downey, and went, "Oh God, Gordon Downey! I just love him so much." I said, "Well, go home and say hi." She said, "Oh, I couldn't do that." I said, "Sure you could." "No, no, no, I would be too afraid." I grabbed her hand and I dragged her over. And I said, "Hey, Tammy, I want you to meet one of your biggest fans."
Oh, how nice.
I've forgotten her name. This is so and so. And she went, "Oh," and he shook her hand and they had a little conversation and she was on the, seventh
Hi.
heaven.
Right.
It happened again when I was managing a jazz singer in London. We had this brand new CD. We went to an Oscar Peterson concert in Stratford. And again, we thought, well, let's go down to the green room and see if we can get in. All of a sudden, you heard, and they turned on, there's Oscar Peterson in a wheelchair, right up to where we were standing. I grabbed the woman that was a jazz singer and I pushed her forward and I said, "Come on, let's go." And I went up to Mr. Peterson. I did the same thing I did with Gordon Downey. I said, "Mr. Peterson, I want you to meet one of your biggest fans. She's a jazz singer. She just released her first CD and she's got a present for you."
So you're a person who makes these opportunities available because you like a challenge, because you're an extrovert. You can do these things. But a
Yeah,
lot of
I'm
people who are going to be watching this are not like that.
well,
Can you after all of this, all that you've done in your life, can you give some pointers, some tips, some advice to those people who would like to be a little more creative, but they don't know how to start or they don't know if it's inside them? What would you say to them?
it goes back to the Nike thing. Just do it. Just start writing if that's your interest. Write, write, write. If you don't like it, throw it out. But what I would recommend is write and then show it to somebody and see what they say. Go to somebody who's more of a friend who would be honest with you. And don't worry if they say, not very good. Improve.
Many people don't haven't done very much in their
Yeah.
lives and now they're older and they would like to do something but they're not quite sure. Tell us about what creativity has done for you. What is the power of creativity?
Joy is
Ah,
one of the things. I just love it so much to think that I've created this situation and I'm part of it. In terms of um, photography, you can't look with a wide angle lens all the time. I look at all the little kind of details, like with what you're wearing right now. I really like this gray straps that are coming down over top of the red. I'd take a picture of that because that's really cool to
never
me.
mind the face, hey? Take a picture of the
I'd
straps.
take a picture of your face too, but
I was just watching a man talk on a TED talk about the fact that so many people live up in their heads that they see their bodies as just ways of getting their head from one place to another. And you just reminded me of, I thought that was very funny. How can people see what you're doing? Where can we find the work that's coming? And what's next for you?
I don't have a website. I'm not interested in that. I've posted a lot of pictures on my Facebook page.
Yes, I'll direct people there.
So when
What
you
about your
look at,
books? Tell them about your
well,
books.
hopefully, maybe in the next year they'll be published. I'll keep my fingers crossed. And if they get
Okay.
published, I'll have to have a website, you know.
I think websites go up pretty quickly, but it's how you populate the website that makes the difference.
That's right.
What you have on there. Well, thank you so much, Lance. My final question is what I ask everybody that I speak with in this context. What age do you feel inside?
30.
Yes, 30. Oh, that's a great age. Why do you think you feel 30?
Because that was the absolute physically strongest I ever was.
Ah,
Uh, I had I was working hard. I was lugging equipment all over the place, up and down hills and that. So I was physically in great shape. And it was when I finally realized that just working isn't what I wanted to do. I wanted it not to be a job, but a career. I
you wanted it to
wanted
be a joy.
Yeah, I wanted it to be a joy. And when I finally got into a production company, it was because I was doing all kinds of stuff and
Mm.
everything, satisfying my curiosity, but and challenging me in all kinds of different ways. And when somebody said, "Gee, I don't know, can you do that?" I always said yes, and then I learned.
And I love that you feel 30 inside. I think that's fabulous. And thank you so much for this time with you. I'm going to be coming back to you at some point in the future, if you don't mind, when your books are ready, and we'll chat
Okay,
about your books.
that'd be lovely.
Okay.
Okay.